The Boston Bruins are battling some key injuries, and we've got a chance to check out some fresh young talent from Providence while they recover. Plus, we'll break down what on earth happened Saturday night when the Bruins faced off with the Penguins. That's all coming up on this edition of Bruins Daily TV. From Studio 73 at Suffolk University, Tim Rosenthal here in the studio with me, Erika Lee. Thank you for joining us for our part one of our holiday edition of Bruins Daily TV.
Yes, we'll have part two next week. Until then, part one is over. Good night.
Not quite. Let's start, Tim, of course, with the huge issue at hand here. Saturday, the Bruins take on the Penguins. An embarrassing night for the NHL, to say the least. What happened?
You see this? I'm really not impressed with what happened Saturday night. Witnessing it firsthand, of course, coming back from Montreal that night, getting there 10 minutes beforehand, but that's another story for later. On the other hand, just moments into the game when you saw Brooks Orpik commit that interference call on Louis Eriksson that was not called by the officials. It was kind of a high hit that was unnecessary. I think that's what started it from the get-go. And then you look at Sean Thornton obviously pounding Orpik, which was uncalled for, and also out of character for Thornton himself. And you could certainly see afterwards how dejected he was. He's kind of tearful about it because he and Brooks Orpik have a history with each other, a good history with each other, skating together during the lockout and during the summer, during off-ice workouts. So I think he was certainly crushed by it for sure. And then James Neal kneeing Brad Marchand in the head. Probably should have deserved more of a penalty than he already got, and more of a suspension than he received. But none of it was pretty, that's for sure. I don't think you could find any silver lining to this whatsoever.
Absolutely not. And of course, Neal, as you mentioned, gets 5 games for kneeing Brad Marchand in the head. Sean Thornton's got an in-person hearing coming up on Friday. So we'll find out what the result of that is on Friday when that happens.
Yeah, and unfortunately, even with the clean track record, he's had 0 suspension history. But you look at what happened to John Scott earlier in the year and how he didn't have the suspension history before that, it's beyond us. But for Thornton, this is kind of a heinous act. He knows it. Everyone knows it. Everyone feels guilty, and I think everyone will be relieved one way or another, whatever Brendan Shanahan, how many amount of games Brendan Shanahan gives them.
I think so as well. And of course, the other concern here, I can't even keep track of who's injured and who's available at this point. The Boston Bruins are slowly turning into the New England Patriots with all the injuries piling up this week. And for me, watching them against Calgary the first 2 periods on Tuesday night was a little bit concerning. Is this something that we should really be worried about, or am I overthinking things?
I think anytime you have this amount of injuries, you have to think something's wrong one way or another, whether it's conditioning, whether it's the short off season that they had and not being able to get their legs back in shape, or just feeling a little bit rusty now. And then you look at all the injuries, Chris Kelly, Louis Eriksson, obviously, Daniel Paille, and they had the flu going around this week. Boychuk before that, and McQuaid out defensively. Thankfully, they do have a deep roster, not only in Boston, but also in Providence. They have a deep farm system, and you're seeing Ryan Spooner and other guys like Matt Frazier and even Jordan Caron kind of step up a little bit throughout the season whenever they had to fill an injury void.
And of course, the AHL Bruins are somebody that I'm familiar with. I get to cover them pretty frequently. So it's kind of exciting to be able to see these guys have an opportunity to play in the NHL. Of course, as you mentioned, we've got Matt Frazier up here. We've got Ryan Spooner. Those are really the top 2 guys on the P Bruins right now. Jordan Caron's been here all season, but now he's really getting an opportunity to play. Bruins also call up Nick Johnson as well. So lots of opportunities for these guys here in the NHL to really prove themselves. As I mentioned, with injury comes opportunity. So when we come back, we're going to get a chance to talk about which guy we think has the best opportunity to work with the Bruins now that they've been called up. That's coming up next on Bruins Daily TV. Welcome back to Bruins Daily TV. Erika Lee here alongside me, Tim Rosenthal. Tim, it's time for us to drop the gloves.
Yes, before this, though, I think we are welcome Snoopy and this little Zamboni guy for our For our cameos this week, and
Yes.
we'll be looking at more swag during the next semester, and a big thank you to our interns who helped with the first semester too.
Absolutely. Well, a little less fun on Drop the Gloves this week. Some more serious topics we can discuss for once.
I know, right?
With all the injuries to the Bruins so far this season, as we mentioned in the first segment, some major opportunities for the guys in the AHL to come up and play in the NHL. Which guy do you think has the best opportunity to succeed with the Bruins this season?
I'm looking at Ryan Spooner for one. He's been called up back and forth the past couple of years already, but this is really his time to shine. Offensively, he's one of the more gifted players in the NHL. And Tuesday night against Calgary, I think he really made some plays happen with Soderberg and Matt Fraser, who I believe was a line mate of his down in Providence. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Spooner in these next few games.
Spooner, of course, as you mentioned, is a great opportunity for him to be here. He's been back and forth a couple times. And yes, he and Matt Fraser are line mates down in Providence. I think Fraser's got a really great opportunity up here to play as well. He is a strong player. He's definitely the real deal. And I think that Bruins fans are going to be really excited to see him play here in the NHL.
And then you look at Nick Johnson. He had a pretty strong preseason and almost won the 12th forward spot with Carl Soderberg's injury. So here's another opportunity for him coming from Phoenix in the offseason to get some playing time and to get some big league experience as well.
Definitely. And in terms of injuries, the Bruins have already seen some pretty serious ones this season, especially where defensemen are concerned. Which Bruin do you think the Bees can least afford to lose at this point?
I'm going to look at Tuukka Rask right now, just looking at the backup goaltending situation behind him. Chad Johnson undoubtedly has done a good job in his role as the backup goaltender, but I don't think he can carry a load if Tuukka were to go down. And I think Svedberg and Subban down in Providence are still a couple years away, so I'm looking at Tuukka Rask. And he's had an injury history before, and that's something that even Bruins fans were concerned with this season, even after a lockout where he had a really strong year.
Tuukka, of course, plays a huge role in the Bruins' success. I'm looking at Zdeno Chara. They can't lose a guy like Z, the captain of their team. He's the strongest defenseman. He's been getting more minutes with all of the injuries than he usually gets, and I don't think you can have a guy like him go down right now.
And then you also have to look at Patrice Bergeron, too, another obvious answer there.
Absolutely. Well, Tuesday night, Jarome Iginla made his return to Calgary for the first time since he left last season. It was a wonderful night for everybody. What was your favorite part of the evening?
I think it was the end where he had the curtain call. Being the third star of the game, obviously you never see him get that much of an ovation, but returned to his hometown, he got the standing O all throughout the night. And then seeing the Bruins, seeing Zdeno Chara tell him to take a lap around just one more time for the fans, I think that just put the icing on the cake.
It was definitely an awesome moment. For me, I loved the tribute that Calgary did for him. It was amazing to see the fans on their feet for 2.5 minutes when he first came out, gave them a nice stick salute. Then they had that great video tribute for him at the beginning of the game, and it was just perfect. It was really well done and well put together, and they obviously love him so much there and don't blame him for leaving at all after spending his first 13 seasons there in the NHL. So for me, that was my favorite moment, as great as the end of the game was too.
And the ceremonial face-off at the beginning with him and Mark Giordano for charity too. I think it was one of their charity nights. So all in all, it was really a great night and really a real well done for Calgary.
Absolutely. Well, Tim was so kind this week that he let me pick that last question myself, and of course I knew my answer without even thinking about it, and I think you had your answer all formulated ahead of time too.
Of course. But I always win.
I don't know. I think we tied on that one.
You really do? We need to ask the judges, I think. Leave your comments on the YouTube section below. Maybe you can even tweet us at @Tim Rosenthal, @Erika Lee, @Bruins Daily.
Yes, and let us know who you think won Drop the Gloves. Plus, you can send us your answers as well. Well, looking ahead, the Bruins are going to get a look at another familiar face, Andrew Ference, when they head to Edmonton on Thursday. the guy responsible for encouraging Jarome Iginla to come to the Bruins in the first place at the end of the season. So should be a good game.
I've already seen twit pics from the Bruins Twitter account of Lucic, and I believe it was Krejci or maybe even Iginla exchanging pleasantries in Edmonton. So I'm really looking forward to that, and whenever he returns to Boston, that'll be a pretty special night, I think, too.
I think so, too. Well, thank you so much for joining us here on Bruins Daily TV today, as usual. And thank you again to our crew here at Studio 73, wishing you all a happy holiday. We'll miss you during your break, but we can't wait to come back in January and film here again. We'll see you next week with a special holiday edition part 2 of Bruins Daily TV from the Bruins Daily headquarters.
Before we leave, I think Snoopy wants to make his appearance.